This week on Cityline, we are flipping the script by celebrating Black Canadians changing the game. And our first guests are here to talk about one of my favorite subjects. What could it be? Is it chocolate or wine? It's wine. Welcome sommelier and wine consultant Beverly Crandon and the first and only Black winemaker in Canada, Steve Byfield. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today. I'm happy that we're able to celebrate you. And Beverly, yeah, good to have you. I'm going to start with you. Apparently, you were on track to become a lawyer, then big pivot. You're now deep into wine consulting. So how and why did you make that leap?
Right. That's like every parent's worst nightmare. I got to tell you. So, right? So after university, I decided to get into sales and marketing. And then I had a client that I was taking out. And he was from California, right in the heart of wine country in America. And at dinner, he said, I want to order a few wines with our dinner. And I was like, well, okay. He said, I think like a lovely Riesling is going to go great with this white fish. And I think a Cabernet Sauvignon is going to go great with the steak. And he was right. I saw when I ate my meal that white fish turned more buttery, creamy, kind of like you were dancing on clouds. And the steak was melted in your mouth from the tannins and the structure of the Cabernet Sauvignon. And that is when I realized that there's something here. There's something in wine. There's something about food and wine pairing. And it just made me want to dive in and learn more.
That is so cool. So it was one good dinner. And you're like, I need to start going in that direction. I have to ask you this, Beverly, as a Black woman in the wine industry, have you come up against any resistance, and what has your experience been like?
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing. So there has been some, from time to time I'll do some posts around pairing Caribbean food or Indian food with wine. And some of the comments from people who are entrenched in the industry, a little dubious, but that just means to me there's so much opportunity to train and educate people and to share your experiences. So that actually motivates me.
Yeah, I love to hear that. All right, this one's for Steve. It's for both of you, but I'm going to start with Steve. Why do you think there are so few people of color in the wine industry? What do you think's going on?
That's a pretty faceted, layered question or answer to give. But really, I think because mainly people from our community perhaps didn't see themselves as being represented in that industry in terms of having opportunities to pursue becoming a winemaker or a vineyard manager or into sales, whatever, in terms of, especially from the winemaking end, it wasn't really a pathway that was really, open to a lot of folks. I was fortunate enough to apprentice and work my way up and had some great mentors and some great support in doing that. But I had seen, along the way, it just hasn't been as visually opened, I guess, in terms of others coming into this industry.
And Steve, what was it for you? Why did you say to yourself, well, I'm going to become a winemaker, even though I do not see any other Black people doing this in the entire country? What made that choice for you a feasible option?
Well, I got got bitten by the wine bug in my second university as through a part-time job and really just fell in love with it. I was wanted to become a music educator, but the wine bug got me, and that became a second passion, so I just really went at it.
Yeah, you were drinking better wine than I was when I was in university, because I was at the dépanneur getting l'entrecôte, and it was like holding my nose to get it down and then running to the club to get in on time, because ladies were free before 11:30. So you had a much classier wine beginning than I did. Steve, I want to talk about the name of your label, not Narai. It has African roots, Narai.
Yes.
Tell us about why it was important for you to have that African tie-in with your wine.
Well, it more or less wasn't my initial preference or choice in terms of trying to find an African name as opposed to landing on something by accident. My original business partner wanted me to basically put my name on the label called Steve Byfield's Wine, called Steve something, have your name on it. I was like, you know what? I'm still young in this industry at that time. Didn't want to really put my name on it, only because I thought I didn't have enough street cred or enough, recognition or experience in the industry. So I wanted to take a name that I could at least tie the brand to convey a story. Came across the word Narai, looked it up, saw that it came from the Shona dialect, Shona tribe. And to them, the name means humility or humble. Well, to me, the winemaking process for myself is a very humbling experience because, you're creating something from raw material from that nature gave you into a finished product that people really enjoyed. And we just figured, my team and I, that'd be really the greatest name to dress the brand with, because it conveys a sense of pride and uniqueness.
Beautiful. And I have no doubt at some point your name will be like Snoop, and you can just put that on a bottle of wine and call it a day. But I like the fact that you have that tie-in.
Yeah, I kind of gave in and put my signature on the back label at the end. But no, still, it's all about the branding and getting the word out. So
yeah, you're allowed. You're allowed. Okay, Beverly, talk to me a little bit about the wine and food pairings that you do. You've got some exciting projects coming up as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run something called the Spice Food and Wine Event Series, and we do twice a year 2 big events. So the next one coming up is called Spring into Spice. This is when we take foods from cuisines where people normally don't equate them to being something you pair with wine. So we're taking, Ethiopian, Eritrean food, Caribbean food, Indian food, all kinds of ethnic cuisines, and we pair them with wine through multiple events. For us, we know that the way wine was introduced to certain parts of the world and cultures was not the best. I mean, in wine school, and Steve will attest to this too, we're heavily taught to understand Bordeaux wine and first growths and so on. But then I also understand, being someone who knows the history around wine, that Bordeaux was France's largest slave trading port. So what would happen is people would make wine in France and Portugal, for example, and they'd go down with wines on these ships, the same ships used to grab the enslaved. And so as you can imagine, wine has a systemic history that people kind of think, oh, it's classist, it's elitist. But what we're trying to do with Spice Food and Wine is separate the two. It's not the beverage. It was the people that were telling the stories before. And so now we want to build new narratives around wine where we take wine, it's taking molecules and pairing it with molecules, wine and food, molecules and molecules. There's no wine can't go with this cuisine or that cuisine, or it's only good for that cuisine. It goes with it all, and it transforms. The same way that I talked about that dinner that I had that transformed me and made me fall in love, we can do the same thing with a nice roti. We can do the same thing with some butter chicken. And that is the story that we're trying to tell.
Oh, I love that. I like the history of that. That's very interesting. Really, really good. Well, here's my little secret. Nothing goes better with a patty and cocoa bread on a Friday with a nice dry Prosecco. That's what I like to do. So classy I am.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you both so much for joining us. You can find out more about our trailblazing guests at cityline.tv.